What's up, family? Welcome back to the conversation. My name is Pastor Ali Marie. I am the youth pastor for the Rock Church Point Loma in San Diego, California. If this is your first time tuning in with us or you've been watching us every single week, go ahead and do us a favor. Please go ahead and click that subscribe button on the bottom. Give us some love, get these numbers up so we can continue to spread the gospel and good conversations, not only with students across the world, but also with our peers, family, and anyone who tunes in. All right, so do that now. I'm waiting for you. Give me 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, let's cut to the chase. Today, we're gonna talk about how to powerfully share the hope of Jesus with others, AKA hashtag, how can we all be hope dealers? Now, believe it or not, I have not always been saved and I have not always been a youth pastor. Honestly, I've been rocking with Jesus for the last 7 years. And prior to that, I used to have a really hard time identifying with believers, mainly because Christians kind of have a pretty bad rep. We're mostly known for the things that we don't support instead of the things that we do. We're mostly known for things that we don't want to do instead of the things that we can do. And so as I think about this verse and this conversation, I've been asking myself in my own private time, how can we reshape the narrative of how the world sees us as believers? How can we change the way that they view us? Instead of seeing us as like, no, I don't want to talk to them. Instead, they can see us as, man, like, this is a person that I want to get to know. And I also want to get to know about this Jesus that they talk about so much. Now, like I said in the beginning, I haven't been a youth pastor my whole entire life. A couple years ago, I was working for the county of San Diego for the government. And at the time, it was a job that I pleaded with God to give me. And then when I got it, I was like, Lord, I don't want it anymore. And along the way, God was telling me that he had me there for a very specific reason. And that reason was to share the hope of Jesus with one of my coworkers. So after I got over the fact that I no longer wanted to be there, and I realized that God had me on a mission, I started changing my focus while I was at work. I had a coworker that sat right across from me that would always tell me about her life and, the parties that she was going to. And God basically said, how about you share about the amazing things that are going on in your life that I'm doing and also in the lives of your friends? So every time at lunch, we would sit and talk, and I began to share with her all of the crazy cool God stories that God was doing in my life, how he was visiting me in dreams, how he was doing some amazing work in my friends' lives. I had friends in North Carolina who moved all the way down here. God gave them a job, God gave them a position, and every single time that I would share about what God was doing, it intrigued her more. So I realized that in my direct pressure to put on myself to share the word, God was giving me an open door to share about the amazing stories that were happening in my friend's life and then in mine. So after she got really engaged with my friend's stories, I started telling her about what God was doing in my heart and in my mind. And every single week she would ask me, tell me more, tell me more, tell me more. Weeks and weeks passed. So it got to a point where we had a worship night event happening in our church. And God told me like, yo, you've been buttering up this bread long enough and she's ready to eat it. Go and invite her to this worship night. So I finally conjured up the ability to ask her to go to this worship night. And I thought she was gonna say no. Instead, she said, you know what? I'm gonna think about it. So a couple days later, she says, hey, when is this event? I wanna bring my daughter to this. So she came and she went. And when we were there after the service, I saw her and I remember seeing her face and she was just like so shook by the worship experience. And she told me, hey, can you call me? I wanna talk to you about this experience that I had during the service. And I'm like, all right, cool. So I call her that night and I'm like, hey, like what's happening? And she's like, Allison, like I am shaking from that experience. And I'm like, what happened? She's like, I wanna know more about salvation. I wanna know more about this Jesus that your pastor was talking about after that music was over. So fast forward about 20 minutes of us going back and forth, her asking me questions about Jesus. And later on in that phone call, she asked me to lead her to the Lord. That was my first time sharing and leading someone to the Lord. I was so hyped. I was like, man, I called my friends like, yo, I led someone to the Lord. And when I think about that moment, I thought to myself, man, what if I did not share about what God was doing in my life with her? What would have been different? Would she have not been going to church? Would she have not been wanting to seek out God for herself? All I can think about is not necessarily what didn't happen, but I can think about what did. And what I know is that God allowed me to share something amazing that was going on in my life, the things that were going on in my friend's life, and that opened the door for her to have her own encounter with Jesus. And now she knows Jesus for herself. She got saved, her daughter got saved, and now she serves at our church on our hospitality team, and she's been walking with Jesus for 2 whole years. So when I think about this journey, I think about 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 15, and it reads this: "But in your hearts, revere Christ as Lord. Always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope that you have found, but do this with gentleness and respect." Every single time I read this verse, I think this. This verse could have easily said, be ready to give an account for your opinion, be ready to give an account for your faith, be ready to give an account for what you think. No, it said, be ready to give an account for the hope that you have found. What led my friend to Jesus was not me telling her what I think she shouldn't do. It was the hope that I shared with her every single day. And because of that, she now has hope in her life. She knows Jesus for herself. Her daughter knows Jesus, and we believe and pray that one day her husband will also come to find Jesus as well. And so now I have changed my mindset to realize that there's no pressure on me to have to know all the right verses or know all the right answers. But really my responsibility as a believer is to be ready, to be positioned, to be used by God so that God can use that opportunity to present himself and show himself faithful to those he wants to do that to. So you may be asking yourself, man, well, how do I do this in my own life? How does that practically apply to me? And I want to give you guys 3 points to keep in mind, because everywhere God has you as a believer, that is your mission field. So here are your 3 points to keep you locked in, ready to be used by God in any given circumstance. And number 1, this is it. Keep a journal of the amazing work that God is doing in your life and the lives of others. I keep a journal of all of the dreams, of all of the affirmations, of all the things that God has spoken over my life. And what's cool is that I take some time every now and then when I need to be reminded of what he's done, when I'm in need of hope to be refilled in my life. And I go back and I look about all of the things that God said would happen, and he made it so. That just reminds me every single time again that God not only said something, but he was faithful to fulfill it. And so I have this ongoing internal bank in my heart. So whenever there's an opportunity to share, I have that in my memory to share with others. Number 2 is this. Ask God to open doors for you to share the hope of Jesus. Sharing the hope of Jesus is not just what we do at church or Bible study, in youth groups, or in the confinements of a religious setting. Sharing the hope of Jesus is treating every place that he has you as a mission field. I was sharing the hope of Jesus with my friend at work, not even knowing that was going to translate to her actually coming to church. Your mission field is where God has you, in your schools, in your homes, at work, wherever you are called to be the light in dark places. So ask him every single day and get in that habit. Lord, today, how can I be used to share the hope of Jesus with others? And number 3, release the outcome to Jesus. The pressure is not on you. A lot of times when we are sharing the gospel or sharing the hope of Jesus with others, we sometimes put a pressure on ourselves for what the outcome may be, whether the person will be saved, whether or not the person understood it. And hey, I want to tell you right now to chill out. The outcome is not on you. All God wants you to do is be obedient. Let him have your voice and let him give you his words. And I promise you that as long as you be obedient and you do that, God will do the rest and God will speak to their hearts. Share the hope with others. That is our assignment as believers, is to share the hope of Jesus with others. So I want to license every single person who's watching this, that you guys are officially licensed hope dealers. Wherever you are in your cities, in your schools, you are all assigned to share the hope of Jesus. That is our mandate. Let people know this generation by the way that we love and also how radical we share the gospel of Jesus Christ with others. So as you review and think and meditate on this word, I have 2 questions for you guys to kind of take away and share in your groups or with your friends or with your peers or whoever you share with this. And this is for you to apply this into your life. And here are the 2 questions. What has been keeping you back from sharing the hope of Jesus with others? Think about that and reflect. And number 2, share a time where someone's testimony or life story encouraged you to go deeper in your walk with Jesus. What part of that story impacted you the most? Reflect on those 2 questions, and I pray that as you reflect, it will inspire you, it will empower you to be a hope dealer wherever God places you. All right, family, I cannot wait to see how God is going to use you to share the hope of Jesus. And until next time, remember this: God loves you, God sees you, and until next time, God bless you.